Hey guys, welcome to our podcast. Today with us, Kashvi, an intellectual, smart girl that I know, and we have talked on, which I really get inspiration from. She's 19-year-old, quite same as me only, a business student, a content creator, passionate about marketing and writing. She loves reading, and that's the topic we're going to touch upon a lot, and is always open to interacting with fellow readers and sharing that knowledge, taking reviews of the books and sharing on her podcast and Instagram. You can check that out. So, Kashi, how do you want to introduce yourself, if in one or two lines?
Ronak, I genuinely think that you've done a fantastic job of introducing me as it is. There isn't much that I would add to that apart from the fact that, yes, I would just like to reiterate that I'm always open to networking and just talking about books in general and just any sort of conversation that broadens my own worldview.
Hmm. Awesome. We first I'm gonna talk about how is it's been your journey from, were you like studying only, a kid who was introvert or extrovert? You were more like of talking people, because when we see people reading, we tend to say that they are introvert, shy people. They don't talk a lot. So what has been your case in your case?
I think that my case is quite the opposite of that, actually. I've always been an extrovert, even as a child. I was a bit of a troublemaker, actually. I was not an introverted kid sitting in the corner at all. Like, I was always a part of every conversation. I've always liked talking to people. And I think that I started off my reading journey in my school's library. I
Hmm.
was in third grade, and we had a lot of, like, luckily, my school has been a huge blessing in a way that it really fostered the habit of reading and like networking and stuff like that. So there was this book called Ramona and the Ramona series by Beverly Cleary. It was very similar to my own story. So I really related with the main character, who was also a kid, who was also a bit of a troublemaker. And yeah, so when I read that, I found it to be very relatable and I found a lot of comfort in that book. And then eventually I read all of the books in that series over a span of a few months. And that's when my reading journey really started. After that, I got into like a little more advanced literature in terms of kids when we started having Harry Potter in school. So the first book was introduced to us in school, and then my sister encouraged me to read the other ones as well. So yeah, that is essentially how I started out. But I was never an introvert who is sitting in a corner. I've always liked being a part of conversations. Of course, there have been moments where I'm just sitting on the last bench of a class and reading my book, but that's only when it was like a really boring lecture that I'm not interested in.
Okay, so awesome. So you
Yeah.
are also does like side gig, like freelancing, writing stuff. So like many people see writing, we do in classes only for exams, but in our normal lives after 12th, it doesn't, we don't do it. We are not connected as much. So what are the
Correct.
writing gigs you got? Why you got into writing only? What interested you in going that in that field only?
Right. So over the years, because I was such a good reader, I'm sure that all the readers who are listening to this can relate. If you've read a lot of books, at some point or another, you've always thought to yourself, maybe I could write my own book. So I had a couple of failed experiments of trying to write my own book or whatever. But then I realized that, you know what, this is something that I don't love. And I was 17 years old and I was one of the core members in my school's literature fest. We had developed it from scratch and we were basically looking for sponsors. Now, one of these sponsors, the deal didn't end up going through, but I still had her in my network. And a few months later, she actually reached out to me and she said that her company is looking for some content writers. They want young writers who can write blog posts for them. Now, this company, it was essentially just a startup who was trying to encourage the habit of reading among kids by giving them an online library. But what they also wanted to do was operate a blog so that the parents and children alike can refer to content about the company, as well as things about things like reading habits, children's book lists, short stories, morals. ethics that can be learned from books. So when she offered this to me, I was very surprised because I had never written this kind of a genre, right? Like everything that I was into was usually fiction or book reviews, but never this. So I decided to just say yes because it was an opportunity, and when an opportunity comes, you should when it presents itself to you, you should grab it instead of saying no. And yeah, that's how it started out. And since then, I guess I've started more and more into copywriting for my own account, which is Kashvi Reads. I have some 30 to 40 reviews on that account. So that is still my niche, but I expanded into blogs and stuff like that after that internship.
So how was the experience doing the stuff? Was it hard
Okay.
or what? Self-doubt came in.
A lot of self doubt came in initially, to be honest, because they were very nice people, like the ones that I worked with, but they had a certain level of expectation that is hard for a 17-year-old to meet with
Mhm.
initially. So there was a lot of miscommunication in the beginning. There was a lot of problems in the sense that, there's this thing called search engine optimization.
Mhm.
And basically, when you have to write an article, they give you this set of words that you have to include in your article just so that it makes the blog post ka visibility better. But I was finding it very difficult to do that initially because I was used to writing in my own flow, writing whatever I want to. But when you have to incorporate those things, then they also made us do like a bit of extra work, like, find pictures for the blog, optimize the size to fit the website. And so there was a couple of extra stuff that I had to do. But overall, towards the end of the internship, I realized that, okay, wow, I have written like around 30 articles and I can use these as a part of my portfolio. So I was very grateful for that. And yeah, any experience like this in the beginning can be really scary. You can have a major case of imposter syndrome kicking in, but you just have to not listen to that voice and keep working and keep writing your best stuff. And it really helps to have someone who believes in you along the way and tells you that, your best work is yet to come.
Mhm. Yeah. So earlier you talked about you read Harry Potter, your favorite novel. So there is some saying that Harry Potter books are much better from the movies. So people
Yeah.
who do enjoy movies, so they don't have not read the books, and people who read books says that it's much better, like novels, fiction, and based on that movies are made. But some criticize that it is not good as how it actually is, like it's much detail in the book. So what's your say?
I agree that it is much more detailed in the book. I believe that there were a lot of characteristics that all the characters had, and there were a bunch of important scenes that the movies did miss out on. But the casting has been done so well that you tend to forget about it. When you look at Harry Potter simply from a cinematic point of view, it
Hmm.
is genuinely one of the best film series out there. Like, having a set of 8 movies and having all of them be consistently good is quite an achievement, right? So I do love the movies. Of course, I will always be more loyal to the books, but I don't blame the people who haven't read the books when they say that the movies are really good because they truly are amazing. It just, when I watched them for the first time, I was blown away because this is like seeing the words that I have read in visual form, and the grandeur is something that I was taken aback by.
Wow. So let's see from the perspective of a beginner or a noob who is just in habit of seeing visuals, and he's like, I'm good. I can see summaries and stuff like that. But he's asking, why should I read books? Because yes, there are knowledgeable people who they are smart, who have achieved something in their life, but there are a lot of material on YouTube or audiobooks. So why someone should give whole time for reading other than just watching a video or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my belief is that there are different types of learners out there. There are people who will derive more value through video content, and there are people who will derive more value through written content. Now, you have to figure out what works best for you. And while you're doing that, you can't dismiss one medium for another. For example, I was trying to get into philosophy, all right, and I started with books because that's what I usually do. I start reading and I try to learn from there. But I was having a very hard time grasping what some of these concepts were. And when I went onto YouTube and I typed philosophy, I found John Green and Hank Green's channel called Crash Course, where they have an entire playlist that teaches you philosophy. And I ended up actually learning more from there than I did from the books that I was reading. So there are exceptions as well. You just have to be mindful about what works for you and what the context is of the thing that you are trying to learn. Now, when it comes to fiction, honestly, one of the best parts about reading instead of watching it is that the writer has written it with the intent that the reader gets to imagine and visualize as they want. When you're reading that book, you're essentially visualizing whatever it is that your mind is capable of visualizing. You're not basically, when you're watching a movie, the director and the cinematographer has shooted everything and they've said that, okay, this is the story and this is how you're going to look at it. When you're reading a book, it's not like that. When you're
Mm.
reading a book, you're free to imagine it as whatever you want to. And that is one major difference, especially when it comes to fiction. And another thing is patience. I think that books can teach you patience in a
Mm.
way that video content can't. When you're reading a book, you have to take it one page at a time, slowly absorb everything that's happening in it. When
Mm.
you're watching a 20-minute YouTube video or maybe even a 2-hour movie, it's not the same. You're getting an instant, I wouldn't say instant, but a quicker gratification in comparison to when you're taking the time out to read a book.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
the patience is the thing. Now people are like in instant gratification. They want something like now only, not waiting for it.
Yeah.
But I'm
Mhm.
a kind of non-fiction, but trying to go into fiction also, because
Okay.
storytelling, I think for the content creators, that is highlighted
Mm.
that you should be good at storytelling about telling your
Absolutely.
stories. Uh,
Mm.
so do you want to go deep in this?
Yeah, sure. The thing is, I myself, I'm trying to learn how to storytell better at this point. I don't think I'm the best at it, and there is a lot of refinement that I personally need to work on in this area as well. But I completely agree with you that every creator, even an entrepreneur needs to be a good storyteller. One of my favorite quotes from Gary Vee, a guy that I really respect, he's a serial entrepreneur,
Hmm.
said that storytelling is the most underrated skill that you can have, especially in business, because it's just an important skill, to be
Yeah.
honest. Even when it comes to writing, you do need this skill.
Yeah, and it differentiate like from others. Like you sell a product, but if you sell a story that you take a emotion to it, so it gets more hype and stuff like that. Why some brands are like doing very well and some are not? The same quality. It is like the
Absolutely.
idea. That's the story is the thing.
Correct. It's what makes your brand stand out.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Like the phrase I want to say in your own words, what do you think of the phrase not all readers are leaders but all leaders are readers? So what's the importance of reading a book? Because we touched upon this earlier also, but what do you get really? There are some disadvantage. Maybe it takes long time. Some of the stuff may be outdated. I'm talking about non-fiction. Some may not apply now because the time has changed, but you
Mhm.
can use your common sense and according to it you can apply it to it. So what do you say?
Yeah, I believe that the quote is absolutely true. I think it's just a fact more than a quote. It's not something that you can prove wrong, right? Because now, if you take a look at the most successful people out there, they are genuinely readers. If you idolize someone like Warren Buffett, he spends hours in his day reading and he advocates it as well as a habit. Bill Gates, that is, I mean, if you look up to these people, there are other people that you can look up to who are readers as well. But it's definitely true. Not every reader is a leader, but all leaders are readers. And this is also because there is a lot that reading can teach you about leadership. When it comes to nonfiction, there are some fantastic books out there about leadership that genuinely teach you a lot of lessons. My dad is an entrepreneur, and he gives a lot of credits to people like Dale Carnegie for teaching him about how communication works, how human psychology works. And these are just important things that a book can teach you, a non-fiction book. And when it comes to fiction, it teaches you this, but in a very, very, very subtle way. It'll teach you this without you even realizing. Because when you're reading a fiction book, you're reading a character's point of view. And when you do that, you're understanding how human behavior works. When you
Yeah.
understand how human behavior works, it will help you in the context of an organization or under any position where you are a leader and understanding how your subordinates are thinking.
Mm.
So it's definitely a value add for all sorts of leaders. Now, of course, there are leaders out there who don't read, but what they do is observe closely in their real life, through which, of course, there are like a lot of factors that come into this, like parenting, your environment. But I agree with the statement fully.
Yeah. And one more thing that I think the non-fiction is overrated. That you like as the story you write, your own story, but the fiction you write, the anime, what is based on. So we connect to the story that it's quite similar to mine also. The what struggle he's going. So you get to learn a lot from the fiction, the story, goes on. So I think
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a very nice thing we can. I really want to go. So any fiction for starters who want to go. That non-fiction you can
On
find a lot, but for fiction, what's your
fiction, yeah. So it genuinely depends on so many things. It depends on the age of the person and also on what sort of genres they like. Now, I can't recommend a romance novel here because your listener might not want that. But I could also recommend an adventure novel, but it won't suit your readers exactly. So if you're listening to this, just DM me on Instagram. Tell me what sort of movies you like. Tell me your age. And based on that, I can recommend something. But in general, for people who are just starting out, Harry Potter is a great place to start. Even if you've watched the movies, just take out some time. Read the first book. Okay, just read the first book, and after that, you'll automatically want to start reading the next one.
yeah
That's just how the series flows. And if you find Harry Potter too kiddish, then maybe try Rick Riordan's Heroes of Olympus series. Not the Percy Jackson ones, but the Heroes of Olympus ones. The books are sort of thick, but they're very fun to read, and there are a lot of characters, and there's a massive story plot that will keep you engaged throughout the series.
yeah? And once you start, you would fall in the love, like the
Yeah, you'll
story.
just
Yeah,
go down that rabbit hole
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
One thing that you had said earlier, that nonfiction is overrated. I would, according to me, nonfiction is not overrated. I believe that the self help industry is slightly overrated. That
mm,
entire genre of reading, I feel like people read too many self help books and not actually execute on them. And I know a few people who buy a lot of self help books and it's just sitting on their shelf
mm.
and it's becoming shelf help more than self help. It's actually a
Interesting.
Jim Quick quote,
Mm,
but I think that part is overrated. I don't think that nonfiction as a whole is overrated because there are a lot of good books out there that we can all learn from.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is? Tell me something about yourself that not many people know about you. Something different, something unique.
Um, I guess that in the context of this conversation, it would be that I don't want to be a full time writer eventually. Like, this is not what I want to do forever. Eventually, I want to become more of a business oriented person. That's why I'm also studying that in school. And the content that I consume has a lot to do with entrepreneurship and marketing more than just writing and reading. Like, of course, Kashvi Reads is a big part of who I am, but it's not my main personality.
Hmm. Okay. So the business and for that, what are you doing? Like institutional, the main course you are doing, or doing some readings also you are taking. From where you are
Yeah.
learning courses or maybe.
Okay. So I guess I would say that there are three sources over here. First would be the books that I read about business and marketing, and just More than books, it's also articles and videos that I keep referring to for this, and just keeping up with finance and how things are going around in the world. Recently, I've been very into crypto. Secondly, what I'm the second source would be school, obviously, because you know, that's
Mhm.
my degree at the moment. And third would I would say is wait, I had it in my. I'm working with a startup right now
Mhm.
from a marketing and growth point of view. So through that, I'm also getting some good real world experience about what it is to be in such a company. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So, if we move forward, so let's go personal only now. Your worst moment and what you have learned from it, because a lot of people go deep. That some it's going good, but some we have deep. So, what has been your lowest and what you have learned from it
Lowest in what sense?
in life?
In life. Um,
Deep question.
okay, all all right. So it's a little basic, but I think that last year, this time, okay, not this time, last year in July, I got my 12th grade board results and they were not good. Like they were not good at all.
Hmm.
And I was very, very disappointed in myself. Like I thought that it was the end of the world for me and that I messed up big time. And what I felt especially bad about was that I worked a lot for these exams, but I still ended up screwing up.
Hmm.
So that was a very low moment for me. It's not normal for me to be sulking around the house. I'm usually a very lively person who's, just having fun. But for that 1 week or 4, 5 days, I was in just like my own zone trying to realize where I went
Hmm.
wrong. And my parents were also they weren't feeling too bad about it. They were just kind of surprised that this happened. But I feel like in that low moment as well, 2, 3 days after that, I sort of realized how marks aren't everything and that there is a lot more to what I can do and what I can achieve outside one exam sheet. Of course, marks are important, but marks aren't everything.
Hmm.
And that was something that took me a while to realize. But now that I have realized it, it's become a very big part of uh, the way I think. Like,
Hmm.
I don't, like earlier, if you would have told me that, okay, this person has scored such good marks, I would have immediately thought that, okay, this person's so smart. But that's just not how I think anymore. What
Hmm.
I would want to know what their interests are, how willing they are to listen to other people, how empathetic they are. These are things that I've started valuing more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that would be one of the lowest points out there.
Yeah, I think everybody has that, and in our
Yeah.
everyone has that low. But what do you want to say to the person who is going low, like maybe financial family is going on, or maybe
Hmm.
career wise, or he's not sure what he's gonna do? So, what's the advice you want to give? I would say that if you are very serious into it, go fetch professional help. We are not professionals, but
Yes.
it is like only for her personal experience she is giving.
So, okay, the main thing over here would be to just persevere and to be patient. You should have that awareness that this is not going to last forever. The bad times aren't, it's not always like this. You will overcome whatever it is that you're going through. All you need to do is have patience, which means that you should know that this isn't going to last. And the second thing is you should persevere. Whatever the situation is, think about what you need to do. Think about, firstly, think about what the situation is. How bad is it? Is it as bad as you think it is? Or is it, much better and you're just overthinking it in your own head? First, try to think about that. Then think about what is it, what is the best thing that you can do to get out of this as soon as possible, and then just go ahead and do it. Of course, it's not always easy. It sounds a lot easier when I'm just saying it like this, but when you shift your mindset in a way that in a once you adopt that optimistic mindset, you will genuinely at least have developed some patience and perseverance to eventually get out of the situation.
Yeah.
This is
And,
what I believe. I'm 19. I'm the same as Ronak, and I don't have that much experience.
mm,
But from my personal life, this is what I would say has helped.
yeah. And I think the main thing you can focus on that upskilling or improving your skills. And one you can keep out, like you love something, dancing or music, something that excites you and you love it. So keep doing this, because it would be like you have a joy or have a life. That would be, you can do exercise also,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
anything you will love.
Yeah, focus your energies on the things that you are passionate about. I guess that would be the third P: patience, perseverance, and passion. Like
Yeah.
whatever it is that you love doing, just go all in on it. Zero down on the things that you love. Like if you love, um, let's say you love singing, open an Instagram account, start creating content. See if that's something that you love. If it's not something you love, move on to the next thing,
Mm,
and just yeah, keep exploring different passions, and you will eventually find something
yeah.
that you love.
Okay,
And don't
so
give up if you feel. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Don't give up, please. You
Yeah,
have a
don't.
long, beautiful life, and there are a lot of incredible things you want to see, and just be hanging there, man. Uh, might There are two questions. And, one is like,
Sure.
what do you see the future of writing? Because of AI, how we are seeing, they are like they are fetching some data, and according to it, they are creating a script for movies also or for books also. So it is like they are taking from Shakespeare to the best, and they are taking into it consideration and actually producing very well. And
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is going to be the future of writing and also of the books also? That now it
Okay.
has evolving, that it was like physical
Mhm.
one, but now it is like audio books. It was e-books, that PDF you can
Correct.
download, or Kindle is there. Now
Hmm.
podcast is also there, audiobooks are also there. So two
Right.
like has a future. What do you want to say?
Okay, so let's talk about writing first.
Mm,
Now, of course, yes, I know that AI might replace writers eventually, but I don't think it can do this fully because you still need a human to verify the content that's being written.
mm,
Otherwise, because ultimately this content is being written for other humans, and AI can't, at least to the limit of the knowledge that I have, this is what I believe, that something that's generated by an algorithm will not suffice a human in terms of understanding. I can't see it happening. Like I can see AI being used to replace copywriting, but when you talk about writing fiction novels or a very detailed non-fiction novel, something about psychology or business or something, I just don't think that a robot could write something like that. But of course, when it comes to copywriting, it's definitely going to get replaced, especially when it comes to social media writing. There's this startup that I read about called Copy.ai, where
mm,
you just have to tell them what your business needs are, what your niche is, what you're writing for, what you want to convey to your customers. And then that website just generates all sorts of written information for your social media or for your blog.
yeah,
It's really futuristic, but it's something that a startup out there is doing. For more information, just take a look at their Twitter. I'm not entirely sure how the revenue model of theirs works, but yes, this is one thing. When it comes to reading, I think that reading is going to be disrupted quite a lot eventually. As much as I would not want it to, I think that evolution is necessary in all aspects of life, and reading is one of them. What I've noticed is that people prefer ebooks, in the sense, not books that have been published by a traditional author, but just any independent writer who is using something like Gumroad to sell a PDF that they've written. So this is what's going on at the moment. It's sort of famous, especially on Twitter. But yeah, this is one possibility. And another is handbooks. So handbooks is something that I've seen on Julian Shapiro's Twitter. He has a website called julian.com where he writes his own handbooks, and he is a very famous guy. Okay, he can get 10 publishers to his feet if he wants to publish a book, but he said that this is not something that I want to do because firstly, you can't include a lot of videos or podcasts in a book.
Hmm.
It's better to have it in like a website form. And the second thing that he said was he can't constantly update a book once it's published. Like
Hmm.
if he's learned something new, he can't go out and tell a publisher to suddenly print 200,000 copies and expect people to buy it again. So that's why he has this website now called julian.com, where there's a section for all of his handbooks, and he has stuff on growth marketing, exercising, writing, a lot of different stuff on all of this, and he keeps updating them whenever he wants in his own time. And people do genuinely visit his website and read it as well. So that is one possibility for the future of literature, that everyone starts having their own handbooks that they
Hmm.
can constantly update.
So the people who are looking for only being author, so it's not happening. It's going to be a low market.
I it will not disappear, but it will decrease, I think, because it's not easy to work with a publisher right now. It's not
Hmm.
easy because they don't give enough preference. They don't give equal opportunities, to be honest. That's how
Hmm.
I'd put it. Like, I don't want to take names, but all the big publishers out there, there is a lot of politics, I would say, that goes into these things. So just to stray away from that, people are choosing to self-publish, to just write a blog instead, or to come up with their own ebook and sell it through creator economy platforms like Gumroad. Another thing that people are doing is working on their own newsletter
Hmm.
on Substack or through whatever their own centralized thing. So yeah, there's definitely a shift happening.
Yeah. And when you talked about the thing of creativity, that would AI would be able to do it. So Varun says that it's incredible. It would take time, but eventually it would be able to. It's super smart.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe did Varun give a time span on this?
He always gives 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. I don't think 5 to 10 years is a bit too soon, but if it happens, then I guess that we just have to be open-minded enough to adjust to it, because
Hmm.
technology is going to disrupt every single industry out there, one industry at a time.
Yeah.
And you just have to be prepared for it. And as a person, if you're skilled enough, you have to just find another way to apply that skill. I think I'd seen this on Abhinav's Twitter the other day. It's that software is eating the world. Now, it is very true. It is very disheartening in some ways, but it also is just the new reality that
Hmm.
you have to adapt to and learn to apply your skills in a new way, or just learn new skills, because learning never
This is
really
the only
stops.
solution I see also.
Yeah,
That you have to
at
adapt
least,
whatever is in
yeah,
coming
for
future.
now, yeah, I haven't really sat and thought much into this and, thought very deeply about it. But from now, as of now, this is what I can say, that you either just learn new skills or learn to apply your skills in a new way.
Hmm. And Naval also talks about the future is going to be code and content. So whatever, if you are doing this, so you are a great doing in great that great field you are. So
So speaking of code, I don't know how to code. I've never learned how to code, but
hmm,
I've been reading that no code is actually going to replace code. Like things like Webflow
hmm,
are going to replace code. I don't know how detailed that is, but this is just something that I've seen on Twitter.
good. Nice. So what's your favorite quote, by the way? Any personal
Oh,
or inspirational, motivational or otherwise?
okay. I have a lot of quotes that I like. Like literally, I'm a reader. I can't pick one.
Hmm,
But recently, there is, 2 weeks back, there is this quote that I came across through a YouTuber's live stream, Abhinav again, Abhinav Chikara.
hmm.
And the quote is from Bhavan Turakya. He is also an entrepreneur. And the quote is that it is our moral obligation to make an impact proportionate to our potential,
Okay.
which basically, yeah, it tells you that it is literally your duty as a creator to take whatever potential you have and to use it to create stuff that could potentially help other people.
Hmm.
So you are obligated in a very weird way to show your best work and to keep creating. At
Yeah.
least as a creator, that is what I derive. As an entrepreneur, you would have some different derivation of it. A doctor would have a different derivation of it. But it's just this one quote that I feel is universal in the sense that makes you feel morally obligated. And morals are something that are sort of important to me.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I just love the quote.
Yeah. Awesome. And mine is like from Steve
Hmm.
Jobs, the death one. So it reminds me of what are the things that are important. Whatever you think that around people, all would be gone, your body also. So you are already naked, so you don't have anything to lose. So whatever you want to pursue or want to achieve, just go for it. And yeah, that would be my takeaway. And let's go further on. So it is like now it's going to be like rapid fire questions. Yeah. So
I think that you got slightly cut off there.
yeah, and now it's fine.
Yeah, you were just what could you just repeat that Steve Jobs part again
The
about
death
the
one,
quote? Yeah.
that how it's what it was like. I
Hmm.
don't remember exactly, but it was
It's fine.
according to, you know, that a lot of people have heard the speech of Steve
Yes, yes,
Jobs,
I know.
and he talks about the
One of my
death thing.
quotes, yeah, one of my favorite, I really like and don't like Steve Jobs at the same time. But he has this quote that he said in one of the Apple presentations, and it's basically just an ode to all the outliers out there.
Hmm.
So here's to the crazy ones, the rebels, the misfits. It goes like that, and it's basically about how people will doubt you when they think they'll just label you as crazy, but in reality you're actually a bit of a genius and they'll only realize it
Yeah.
until after you've made the impact that you
Yeah.
wanted to. And it's one of my favorite quotes out there. It's really long, it's like a 1.5 minute quote, but
Oh.
if you just type here's to the crazy one Steve Jobs on YouTube, you can check it out. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, and Steve Jobs also talks about it. The people around you who are successful and have done something, they are no smarter than you. They were like same as you, and they have built a lot of things. So the awesome thing we are getting into. Okay, so
Right.
what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your career? I think you are in beginning only, but
I am in the beginning, yes.
but whatever experience you have, so what was the thing you have if you had known earlier, or if you have improved earlier, it had been a great start.
I don't know, to be honest. I feel like I'm just getting started, to be honest.
Hmm.
But if like back then, I guess I would have told myself to start reading nonfiction earlier. I started reading nonfiction quite late, like maybe just 2 years ago.
Hmm.
So I would just advise my younger self to, read more of those and start understanding how psychology works, how philosophy is, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the best resources that help you along the way? It may be some YouTube channels or maybe
Mm.
books. So
Okay,
I think it's a lot, but you can take some.
I will try. There's a lot. Um, okay, so I think that Gary Vee's podcast, no,
Hmm.
his Instagram and everything is great, but listen to his podcast. That's the first thing I would say. Second thing, Crash Course Philosophy. It's basically Crash Course is a YouTube channel run by Hank Green and John Green. They're the Green brothers, and they put out a lot of educational content about history, philosophy, psychology, biology. There's no end to it. They have stuff about film criticism, intellectual property, a lot of stuff. Literally anything you want in the world, you can learn from that one YouTube channel. But their philosophy playlist specifically is one that I would recommend. The third thing that I would recommend is a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Read this book. I read it very late. I was very late to the party, but I learned a lot from it. So, yeah, these three things to start. Listen to as many podcasts as you can, like genuine podcasts, good ones. I have a whole list. I will post it on my page someday, but check them out basically and follow. Oh, yeah, one thing that I wish I had done earlier is joined Twitter and taken it more seriously, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs and builders out there who are posting a lot of valuable stuff and threads on their experiences on Twitter. So, yeah, this is pretty much it.
Okay. So, Kashvi, what's you answered it very well, the three resources, and I think the listeners would get help. What are the three influential people you get inspiration from and you learn from them a lot?
Okay, so I would say that, okay, I don't know about three, but I know two for sure. One is my dad. I think that he is a massive source of inspiration. My mom, my dad, and my sister, all three of them, they are very
Family.
big source of inspiration for me. I genuinely value family above all of this. So that would be first. Second would be my friends, whom I've been with for over 8 years now. We've been in each other's lives for that long, and we've supported each other through everything, and we've just grown together. So I really value them, and I'm very, very grateful for them. And the third would be Gary Vaynerchuk, whom, as
Yeah.
most of you know, I have a lot of respect for. Because of his podcast and after reading his book is when I truly started giving more importance to the world of content creation. And just in general, I found his content to be very relatable. The way he also prioritizes his family, the way he expresses gratitude for every aspect of his life, all of these things, and also like with a little element of harsh truths about
Hmm.
hustling and working hard
Yeah,
and
I know.
accountability. So when all of this comes together, especially like through his podcast, I'm just in debt to how much I've learned from him. And he's currently launching his own NFT project
Yeah, I
called
know.
We Friends. We have our own Discord server. Please do join in there if you can, because we're all, it's like a group of 140,000 people entering the Web 3.0 together. So pretty awesome stuff.
Awesome. Congratulations. You are, I think you are moderator on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I am a
So,
moderator there today.
congratulations on that big achievement. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, say.
no, I was actually not going to do it because I had exams going on.
But
But
still.
then I just realized how stupid that would have been,
Mhm.
because this is a long term community, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's not going to shut the server once the project is launched. There are going to be a lot of additions and things happening there. And I am very grateful that I'll get to be a part of them.
Awesome. So, at last, where can the listeners connect to you? Where are you active at?
Uh, your voice cracked up a little.
Okay. So, where can listeners connect to you?
Okay, listeners can connect with me on Instagram or Twitter. I
Hmm.
would prefer Twitter, but of course on Instagram also I'm just a DM away at
Yeah.
Kashvi Reads on both of these platforms.
Yeah. And I would be
And I'm on
linking down.
LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. I would be linking down the
Yeah, I'm
website. You
on,
can check it out all.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
description. Just
Yeah.
feel free to DM me. I try to answer all of them. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Kashvi, for giving your time. It means a lot. I learned a lot of
Yeah.
things, and I think listeners also. But to be honest, I learned a lot of things and hope to do more podcasts. And yeah, awesome. So,
Yeah, Ronak, thank you so much for having me here. I think that what you're doing here is amazing. And yeah, just keep interviewing people, keep learning from them. And thank you for making this so accessible to a large group of people. Um, yeah, you're doing
yeah.
some awesome work here.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
guys, just like, subscribe the channel, go follow Kashvi, And until then, see you later. Kudos. Bye bye. Take care. And take
Bye
care
bye.
of
Thank
your
you for
health
hearing
and
me.
others also, family. Bye bye bye.
Definitely.